Okay, dear children, you would have watched the lesson Project Tiger on Victor's channel. So, let me add some more thing so that you can understand it well. No one can beat Hollywood when it comes to making films with animals in them. I remember films in my childhood, and there were quite few of them that had an Alsatian called Rin Tin Tin. This dog's acting was more impressive than a human's. No one can beat Hollywood. Beat, defeat, പരാജയപ്പെടുത്തുക. Beat Hollywood. What is Hollywood? This is Hollywood. Hollywood is the English film world. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സിനിമകളുടെ ലോകമാണ് Hollywood. When it comes to making films with animals in them. So no one can defeat Hollywood when it comes with making films with animals. I think you would have watched a lot of films with animals. Some may be real and some may be animations. You would have watched the film The Jurassic Park and so many such films. I remember films in my childhood, and there were quite a few of them. And Satyajit Ray, he remembers some films which he had seen in his childhood. And there were quite few of them, and there were some films. Then Alsatian is a variety of dog. ഒരു നായയുടെ ഇനമാണ് Alsatian called Rin Tin Tin. That's the name of the dog. So this is the dog Rin Tin Tin, who is an Alsatian. The dog's acting was more impressive than a human's. The acting of this dog, the acting of Rin Tin Tin, was more impressive, which evokes admiration through size, quality, or skill. So it was more impressive than humans. So this dog could act better than a human. ഒരു മനുഷ്യനേക്കാളും നല്ല രീതിയിൽ അഭിനയിക്കാൻ കഴിയും. Later, we got to see 3 or 4 other films with a collie called Leslie. Later, we saw 2 or 3 films with another collie. What is a collie? Collie is a sheepdog of a breed originating in Scotland, having a long pointed nose and long thick hair. So it's a breed of dog. ഒരു നായയുടെ ഇനമാണ് called collie, called Leslie. So what is the name of the dog? Leslie. So this is the dog Leslie. It seemed that the director could make Leslie do just about anything. And the director of the film could do Leslie anything. Director means the Samvidhayagan. He can make Leslie do anything.
Get me out of this mess! Hey, never mind eating me. Just get me out of here. Start digging. Go on.
These trained dogs were famous stars in their own rights. So these trained dogs, that is, here we have mentioned two trained dogs. One is Rin Tin Tin and the other is Lassie. These trained dogs were famous stars in their own rights. They were famous film stars. And the money they earned was no less than what a real film star got. And the money they earned, അവർക്ക് കിട്ടിയിരുന്ന പ്രതിഫലം was not less than a real actor. ഒരു ശരിക്കുള്ള ആക്ടറിന് കിട്ടുന്ന reward they also got. Their owners could easily make as much as 100,000 rupees. How much is 100,000 rupees? 1 lakh. So their owners could make 1 lakh just from one film. So from one film, the owners of these dogs could make what? 1 lakh rupees. I think you would have seen the film Ringmaster, where the actor Dilip walks with a trained dog. I realized how reverently these animal actors were treated when I happened to see the shooting of a film 20 years ago in Disney studio in Hollywood. The main character in this film was a large dog. I realized how reverently, respectfully these animal actors were treated. I realized how respectfully, reverently means respectfully, these animal actors were treated when I happened to see the shooting of a film 20 years ago in Disney studio. So Satyajit Ray, nearly 20 years ago, not 20 years ago from now, 20 years ago from when he wrote this article. ഈ ലേഖനം എഴുതിയതിന്റെ 20 വർഷം മുന്നേ. So 20 years ago, I went to Disney studio in Hollywood. I think you know what is Disney. So this is the Disney studio in Hollywood. The main character in this film was a large dog. So who was the main character in this film? Main character, the hero. The hero in this film was a large dog. I reached the studio to find the shooting had not yet started. So when I reached the studio, the shooting had not started. ഞാൻ സ്റ്റുഡിയോയിൽ എത്തിയപ്പോൾ ഷൂട്ടിംഗ് തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല. The cameraman was getting the lights ready. And what was going on? The cameraman, he was getting the lights ready for the shot. It is customary for actors to be present when the lights are arranged. Customary, commonly practiced, necessary, avishyam. So it is customary for actors to be present when the lights are arranged. So when the lights are arranged in the studio, the actors should be present there. They should be in the studio. അവരവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കണം. Why? For they have to show the cameraman how they will walk or where they will stand in a particular shot. Because they have to show the cameraman what? Cameraman എന്ത് കാണിച്ചു കൊടുക്കണം? How they will walk or where they will stand in a particular shot. So that the cameraman can arrange lights there. അപ്പോൾ cameraman അവിടെ കൃത്യമായി ലൈറ്റ് അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയും. In case of very famous stars, this job is done by the stand-ins. And if the actor is very famous, this job is done by his stand-in. So who is a stand-in? A stand-in is usually a person who is physically similar to the real star. So a stand-in is someone who is physically similar, who looks like the real star. The stars themselves arrive only when the lights are ready and it is time to take a shot. So when do the stars come? They come when it's the time to take the shot. അവർ ആ ഷൂട്ടിന്റെ സമയത്ത് കൃത്യസമയത്ത് എത്തുള്ളൂ. And their job is done by a stand-in. So a stand-in is a person who is physically similar to the real star. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞാൽ അവൻ്റെ ഒരു ഡ്യൂപ്പ്, അതാണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത്. So he looks like the real star. Here in Disney studio, I noticed that a few actors were moving about in the set, and on one side, standing quietly, was the protagonist, the same large dog. So when I reached the Disney studio, I noticed that few actors were moving in the set. So I noticed that some of the actors were moving. They were showing the cameraman how they will walk or where they will stand. But on one side, standing quietly, was the protagonist. Protagonist is the hero or the main character. So on one side was standing the protagonist. So who is the protagonist in this film? A large dog. The cameraman shouted to everyone to take their position. So the cameraman shouted to everyone for what? To take their position. But the dog remained where it was. But the dog continued to remain where it was. This puzzled me, confused me. Why? Could it be that it was not required in the next shot? Could it be because this dog was not required in the next shot? അടുത്ത ഷോട്ടിൽ ഈ നായിന്റെ ആവശ്യം ഇല്ലേ? Before I could ask someone, a strange thing happened. From nowhere appeared a little dwarf, followed by another man carrying a hairy dog skin. Before I could ask someone, so there were so many people standing around, ചുറ്റും ആളുകളുണ്ട്. So before I could ask something, a strange thing happened, something not common. From nowhere appeared a little dwarf. So who is a dwarf? A dwarf is a person unusually small, who is very small. This is a dwarf. You know now what is a dwarf, right? Followed by another man carrying a dog skin. And this man or this dwarf, he was followed by another man. There was another man coming behind him, and with the other man there was a dog skin. To my perfect amazement, wonder, surprise, to my perfect surprise, the dwarf went down on all the fours on a chalk mark on the floor, just like an animal, and the dog skin was draped over him. Then to my perfect amazement, wonder, surprise, the dog went down on all the fours on a chalk mark on the floor. On the floor, there was a chalk mark drawn. നിലത്ത് ചോക്ക് കൊണ്ട് വരച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. So the dwarf reached there and he came on all the fours, നാല് കാലിൽ നിന്നു, just like an animal. And the dog skin was draped over him, covered over him. And this dog skin was put on the dwarf. Then he crawled from one mark to another. Crawl, move on the hands and legs. Then he crawled from one mark to another, and the cameraman got busy with the lights. And what did the cameraman do? He got busy with the lights. It finally dawned upon, understand, manasilakuga, that this dwarf was paid to be the dog's stand-in. So this dwarf was the stand-in of the dog. ഈ ഉയരം കുറഞ്ഞ മനുഷ്യൻ, ഈ കുള്ളൻ, he was the dupe of the dog. So this showed him how respectfully animal actors were treated in Hollywood. Animal actorsന് ഹോളിവുഡിൽ എത്രത്തോളം ബഹുമാനം കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്. Even animal actors had stand-ins. Okay, now let's come to the first paragraph of the lesson. No one can beat Hollywood when it comes to making films with animals in them. I remember films in my childhood. There were quite few of them. There an Alsatian called Rin Tin Tin. The dog's acting was more impressive than humans. Later, we got to see 3 or 4 other films with a collie called Leslie. It seemed the director could make Leslie do anything. These trained dogs were famous stars in their own rights, and the money they earned was no less than what a real film star got. Their owners could easily make as much as 100,000 rupees from just one film. Okay, let's look at the first sentence. No one can beat Hollywood when it comes to making films with animals in them. And what comes after that is the explanation for the first sentence. ആദ്യത്തെ സെന്റൻസിനുള്ള ഒരു വിശദീകരണമാണ് തുടർച്ചയായുള്ള സെന്റൻസിൽ വരുന്നത്. So that first sentence is called the topic sentence. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് എഴുതുകയും ആ സെന്റൻസിനുള്ള വിശദീകരണം അടുത്ത വരികളിലേക്ക് വരികയുമാണെങ്കിൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടുള്ള വരികൾ വരികയാണെങ്കിൽ, that first sentence is called the topic sentence. So here it is told about making films with animals, and what is told is that about an Alsatian called Rin Tin Tin, then about Leslie, a collie called Leslie. So here you find that supporting statements in accordance with the first sentence, and that first sentence is called the topic sentence. Okay, now let's look into some questions and answers. Okay, the first question. Which was the dog whose acting was more impressive than humans? Yes. An Alsatian called Rin Tin Tin. Next one. What is special about the dog Leslie? The director could make the dog Leslie do anything. Next one. What did Ray notice when he visited Disney Studio? How reverently animal actors are treated. Next one. Why is it customary for actors to be present when the lights are arranged? They have to show the cameraman how they will walk or how they will stand in a particular shot. Next one. Who is a stand-in? A person who is physically similar to the real star. Next one. What puzzled Ray? The cameraman shouted to everyone to take their position, but the dog remained still. Next one. What is the strange thing mentioned here? The dwarf appearing as the stand-in of the dog. Now let's come to the assignment. In Hollywood, animal actors are treated with reverence, just like the human actors. Justify the statement based on the passage and prepare a write-up. So you have to prepare a write-up on how animal actors are treated with respect in Hollywood, and you have to take instances from the lesson. ഹോളിവുഡിൽ എനിമൽ ആക്ടേഴ്സിന് എത്രത്തോളം ബഹുമാനം കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട് എന്നത് പാഠഭാഗവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെടുത്തി അതിനെ കുറിച്ചൊരു ലേഖനം തയ്യാറാക്കുക. So you have to prepare a writer. That's your assignment. So what is a writer and how to write a writer? A writer should have a suitable title, and it should begin with a striking idea. It should elaborate the given topic. എന്താണോ വിഷയം അതൊന്ന് വിശദീകരിക്കണം. And include related ideas. And the ideas should be organized in a proper manner. And the style of writing should be natural. It should use appropriate words and a variety of sentences. And it should have an appropriate conclusion. A writer is a written description about the topic, and it contains the writer's point of view. And your assignment is also the first 2 questions of your textbook. Okay, dear children, thank you and have a nice day.